He said, some guy you've never heard of from Akron, Ohio. So I immediately applied for a job in Akron, Ohio. No, I think it was going to be an opening. In fact, I think one of the main reasons that they hired me in Akron is because they thought perhaps I was psychic, as I applied for a job the day a guy quit. So I don't know anything about Akron, right? All I know is they have a soapbox derby race there once a year. They have a lot of blimps there. Don't know anyone in Akron, Ohio. I've never been, move there. And I feel like I have an opportunity maybe to change my life for a couple of reasons. One, when I worked in Fargo, I was making like $23,000 a year. And because the paper in Akron had a union, it was like $50,000. So I was doubling my salary. And when I lived in Fargo, I went to the bar every single night. So if I wanted to write a book, I couldn't have done it. I was never at home. And I didn't own a computer at the time. So now I'm in Akron with no friends, and I can afford to buy a computer. So I decided, this is 1998, I decided I'm going to try to write a book, just kind of to see if I can do it. But I don't know what I'm going to write about. Okay, I have a lot of interest, but I'm not sure. So I'm in the bookstore, like a Borders or a Barnes & Noble or whatever, and I'll be in the music section, because I like music, and there's books on alternative country, disco, and there's books on jazz, and there's already books on grunge already. There seems to be a book about every idiom of music except the kind that I listen to. No books on hair metal at the time. And in 1998, the idea of being into heavy metal was much crazier than it seems now. Now there's been bands like The Darkness. There's sort of been kind of this ironic, kitschy revival of things in the 80s. That wasn't the case. In 1998, people who listened to metal were now lying about it. They were like, these kids who would put into Iron Maiden were like, no, I like The Cure. I don't. They're lying about what they like. So I thought to myself, boy, somebody should write a book about this. I would love to read a book about hair metal and the experience of listening to hair metal, how the way it kind of shapes your worldview and what that means. And it occurred to me that the best reason for writing a book is to write the book you would like to read. If there's anybody out here who aspires to write a book and you don't know how to go about it, don't know what you don't know what you want to write, what you want to do, that's the advice I would give you. I would say, try to figure out the book in your mind that you want to read that does not exist, and then make that book exist. Okay? So this is what I decided I'm going to do. I'm going to write a book about hair metal. But I think at the time, because metal is so despised and seems so ridiculous and unserious, the only way I'll get it published is kind of crazy, but if I make it an academic book. I think to myself, if an academic press might accept a sociological survey of hair metal, right? So I'm writing what I think is going to be a serious academic book about how rural life is sort of impacted by Motley Crue and Poison and Guns N' Roses, And I read about half this book. I read about 150, 20 pages or whatever. And I don't know anybody in New York. I don't know how books get published. But as I read through the pages, I think to myself, well, I've certainly seen books worse than this. So maybe I can get this published somewhere. So I started sending it to academic presses, like the Duke University Press, the Harvard University Press, places like that. And I get a letter back from a woman from Columbia University in New York. And I've lost this letter. Here again, I've forgotten her name too. I would love to find this woman because she single-handedly changed my life. She wrote me a letter, and she said, I like this book, but we can't publish it for 2 reasons. One, you swear way too much. This is an academic press, and it would seem ridiculous if the word fuck is on 7 pages, The other reason she says, though, and this is the kind of difference maker, she said the most interesting parts of this book are not your academic sort of attempts. It's when you use stories from your own life to sort of explain what this meant. And I'll admit, I did that totally out of necessity. There's just no academic precedent for writing about Tesla. That's fine, it doesn't exist, right? So I would be like, my friend Duke liked Tesla. I'll write about how it affected Duke's life, And that was the part she really liked, and she said, that should be what the book is. That should be half the book, is sort of the memoir elements. So I went back and I wrote the second half of that book, which was all the stuff about my own life. And I took the academic stuff and I interspliced it all. I had this book, okay? Now here again, I don't know how to get a book published, right? But I made a good decision again by chance. Here again, I know this is like a weird message, but like the best decisions you're going to make in your life, the most important ones, you're not going to realize they were important until later. How do you publish a book if you don't know anyone in the publishing industry? Well, I'm going to give you a hint on if you just want to get something published, what to do. Go to a bookstore, find a book that's kind of like yours, okay? Not the exact same subject, but seems in the same sort of vein. Like the writing kind of seems similar, or in a macro sense, the topic seems similar, you know? Well, I found a book like this about basically the marketing of Kiss again. It was called Kiss and Sell. And it was put out by Billboard Books. And here's the deal when you find the book that's kind of like the one you want to write or have written. Go to the acknowledgments page. One of the first people that every writer is going to thank is his editor. You then call that editor at a time when you know he's not going to be there. Call at lunch, call after 6 o'clock, okay? If you can associate yourself with any kind of local publication, that really helps. For instance, I would call up Billboard and I would say, hey, to the editor, it's like, this is Chuck Klosterman from the Akron Beacon Journal. I'd like to talk to you about the book Kiss and Sell. Okay, that's all I would say. His assumption is that you're calling to do a story about this book, and you're going to promote this book. So they call you back. And if they call you back, they can't hang up on you. I mean, if I had just called this guy and said, hey, I want to talk to you about this book, he'd be like, that's not how it works. Sorry, you send a letter to an agent, hang up, you know. But now this guy called me, which is all you're hoping for when you send a query letter anyways, if the person calls you. So you have about 90 seconds to pitch your book. That's what I did. For 90 seconds, I just told him every idea in this book. And the guy was like, intriguing, send it to me. So I send him the book, I send him the manuscript. And here's where the decision comes into play. They say they want to buy it, but they want to change it. They want to add a bunch of photographs to it. And they want it to be more like an encyclopedia of the history of metal. They want it not to be a book size, but like a larger size book that's really illustration heavy. And they're offering $9,000 to do it. And $9,000 isn't a lot unless you have $1,000, which I did. It didn't seem like a great deal. Plus I wanted to have a book, right? So I'm thinking like, should I do this? Should I do this? You know, like I've sort of tricked this guy into agreeing to publish this book. Maybe this is the only chance I'll have. Maybe this is the only opportunity I'll have to be an author, you know? But I thought about something. Here's something else to think about if you pursue writing or any kind of artistic venture. You know, making a record, making a film, whatever. For the most part, no matter how much attention that book gets, or how much it's written about, or how many people buy it, nobody really cares but you. It's true, man. I mean, like some of you probably read these books, and you associate yourself with really liking them, maybe loving them, but if they disappeared, nothing in your life would change. Okay? There's so much culture in the world that everything is small, except to the person who creates it. To them, it's everything. So I kept thinking to myself, if this book comes out, and I hate this book, the rest of my life, it's going to be on my bookshelf, and I'm going to look at it. All I'm going to think about is how much I hate it. So I said no to these people, which at the time, all my friends thought I was nuts. They couldn't believe I had done this, but I did. I just said, no, let's wait. Yeah, let's wait. And here again, you never know when chance is going to happen. A friend of mine from the University of North Dakota is going to the NYU Creative Writing School as a graduate student. He's at NYU. If you go to the NYU Creative Writing program as a graduate student, during the summer, they get all the people there little jobs in publishing, like, or for an agent, house, you know, clerical work. Talking to this guy on the phone, and he says, well, I can't get you an agent. He's working for an agency. It's like, I can't get you an agent. If I could get you an agent, I'd get myself one. But there's one step I can remove. For the most part, when you send a literary agent your manuscript, there's also a cover letter with it. And they read the cover letter. And if they don't think the book sounds commercial, they just throw the manuscript away. He's like, the one thing I can do is I can put this book on someone's desk. I can get you to skip the first step. Like they won't throw it away based on the description. They'll have to actually look at the text. So I was like, okay, whatever, great. And amazingly, a guy calls me like 2 days later.